Good morning or good afternoon, students. It's Mrs. Polidorus. This is your second lesson in Unit 0, and we are going to review classroom expectations. It's important that you have a copy of your guided notes, so please find those in your packet and make sure that you are doing your best to fill those out as this video is being shared with you. Make sure you're listening and watching, as sometimes I say things that are not on the screen. Oops, let's go back and let's remember we always have a learning target, and the learning target for this lesson is that I can identify what is expected of me during class. So materials, you definitely have to be prepared. You need to have your science workbook, if you have one for that unit, and a science folder. Bring them to class every day. It's important that you have a fully charged Chromebook and headphones. If you need to borrow headphones, you can, but if you have your own, bring them with you. And it's important that you have things to write with. Make sure you have a pencil, something that you can erase, and a pen. It's important to have a checking pen, something that's not black, like red, green, or blue, and a highlighter will be super handy this year. It's also important that you remember we have our away for the day cell phone policy, so your phone must be kept in your locker. Please do not bring it to class. The bathroom procedure is fairly simple. I'd prefer just one person out of the room at a time. I do want you to ask permission to leave. When you ask permission to leave and I allow you to leave, I would like you to sign out with the time you're leaving the class and with your location, and I want you to sign back in with the time that you arrived back in the room. If you have an emergency, do your best to just wave at me and get my attention so I know that you have to leave the room right away. It's okay if you have to leave in an emergency, but I will follow up and check in on you. The sign-in, sign-out log is by the door if you're facing the Promethean on the right of the room. If you want to put your name down to save your place in line, if you notice someone is already out of the room, you can do so. So what will you be doing in class? Well, in class, it depends where you are in the lesson. You might be taking guided notes and listening to an instructional video. You might be working on a different practice assignment. You might be conducting a virtual lab or a hands-on lab. It just depends where you are in the lesson. It's important to try to stay within 2 to 3 days of the suggested due date of those activities so that you don't feel far behind. Now, you should follow your lesson game board. That is your pacing guide. You should check the lesson game board to see which lesson you are on. And you should continue at your own pace. But don't forget to check those soft and hard deadlines. And if you need my help, just ask me. I will help you stay organized. If you're not sure if you're at a good pace, just ask me. I'll help you make decisions if you have homework or if you don't have homework. Now, videos and notes. I have expectations for what you should do. It is super important that you follow along and listen and watch the videos. It's important not to just watch what you see on the slides. Sometimes things are shared that are not on the screen. Sometimes your instructional videos will be in the form of an ed puzzle, and you'll be required to answer questions while you're watching and taking notes. I will even have you complete tasks in your workbook, so make sure that you have that available because the instructional video may ask you to write in your workbook. Your work and your notes should be placed into your folder when you're completed and brought back with you the next day. Now practice. The expectation is that you're doing it. Your practice will help you be successful. I am available to help you, but it's important that you use the ask 3 classmates before you ask me rule. I want you to get used to helping one another in here, collaborating. I may sometimes use a sign up on the board to make sure that I get to see everyone who needs to see me. When you're done with your practice work, the expectation is that you will check your work. You need to know if you're doing the assignments correctly. There will be answer keys available on Schoology for you. It's important not to look at those answer keys before you actually do the lesson task. You want to try it on your own. And please make sure when you're correcting that it's a different colored pen, that it's not black. You should mark if it is correct with the letter C or put an X if you were not correct. Don't leave incorrect answers on your paper. Fix those answers using the colored pen or colored pencil that you were using to correct. It's a good idea to put the number wrong on top to let you know how well you did. And please ask questions if you do not understand how the correct answer came to be. If you do not check your practice work, that is a huge expectation. If you do not correct it, you will not receive full credit for doing your practice work. And if you want to reassess, you won't be able to reassess a mastery check or a unit test if you haven't corrected all of your practice work. So make sure you're doing that. Now, turning in your work. The expectation is that you will be showing me work before you take a mastery check or before you take a unit test. Sometimes I'll look at that throughout the classroom time that I have with you. Sometimes I'll ask you to turn that into the turn-in bin. There is a turn-in bin for your hours, so please make sure you look and find that on the window ledge. Mastery checks. These are graded. These are things that count towards your grade. They're like quizzes. So I'm going to expect you to work on your mastery check alone, and I'm going to expect you not to use notes. Remember, these count towards your grade, so make sure you've reviewed all of your practice work and you've studied before taking it. Now, what happens if you don't achieve mastery? Well, you can try again. You can review and complete activities you skipped. You can ask for extra help, and I may give you an opportunity to take another mastery check. What happens if I do achieve mastery? Well, that's awesome, and you can move on to the next lesson if it's open. You might even move on to an extension. So, in a nutshell, you're going to watch instructional videos and take notes. You are going to work on additional practice within the lesson. Some of that practice will be labeled must-dos, some of it will be labeled should-dos. You're going to take a mastery check, a quiz for that lesson, and you will either move on to the next lesson or you may be given an opportunity to revise. Your grades are 100% on your assessments. That means your mastery checks, your unit test, or perhaps a project that's considered an assessment. Your practice work is your practice, and it will not count against you. So, some keys to success. Remember, show initiative. Try to solve your own problem. Ask peers and use your resources. Use your class time wisely. Don't fool around. If you find yourself falling behind, finish the lesson after or before school, or ask for help on setting up a plan so that you don't get further behind. This is the end of the second video in Lesson 0 on classroom expectations. Please replay it if you need to finish your guided notes. Don't forget to check the key to make sure your notes match the key. Have a great day.